No, so Bill's had a go. This is Kelly, and I'm Gareth. We both work for the business unit, same kind of capacity as George. So we've got a number of delivery methods that we use with BackupExec, and this is the idea is to give the customers the choice. So you can either pick software, or you can pick an appliance. We talked about that already, or we have our own cloud solution. Anybody come across B.cloud yet? No? So Symantec.cloud is a series of data centers around the world that offers cloud solutions, and B.cloud is one of them. I wish I could show the interface. So I've got a couple of screenshots. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, kind of. This is showing the computer and the .cloud, but not the rest of the services. You can just add things like mail security services to this by just adding a service, and it's a subscription based. It's really simple to use. So this is targeted at the very small customer. It's for servers or for desktops, laptops. I've been testing it. Actually, I shouldn't say this aloud in front of all these people. I've been testing it for about 8 months, and I think they've forgotten I've still got an account because I'm using it. It's great for road warriors. It's block level, very simple to set up. You just add your computer to it, download the agent, and configure the backup. You can do CDP, or you can pick up backup times. Because it's block level, you can come out of the network back into it, and it doesn't worry about it too much. No great big. I
take it this is a yearly subscription type thing.
Yeah, that's right.
And it's limited by data allocation subscription.
Well,
various packages.
So you get it's priced per the amount of per gigabytes that you back up. I think it starts at 10 if I remember rightly. And it's kind of designed. It's that group of people that sit between consumer and when you're getting to plus 24 to 50 type, which we would normally associate with small businesses, around about the sort of 50 employees sort of level. Sure. So it's those. I think, to be honest with you, it's fantastic for even large groups of people using laptops, simply because it's block level and you just plug it in. It then picks up that block and continues to back it up, and then when you unplug again, it drops it because it's CDP. I don't even have to worry about it. There doesn't appear to be any network problems. And when we first tested this, it was kind of painful because it took me, I think it was 4 years ago, where I was trying to back up to Virginia somewhere, and I was in the UK, and I was trying to back up about 5 gig, and it took 2 days. When I did the initial backup on I keep pointing at your machine, on my machine, it was 10 gig and it took me 3 hours. So the bandwidth has improved dramatically.
You have the ability to disable it, or at least allow it to discern which networks you're on, so it doesn't try to continuously back up over your modem or your cellular phone that you're using.
You can change those things, so you can change the way that it chooses, but it will pick up whatever the network that you're attached to.
There's a thresholding.
Yeah, I think there is.
There's a thresholding piece that's built into it, so it doesn't flood your network trying to do the backup. If you've got a very tiny pipe.
Disable it once you connect to your cellular provider or something like that.
You can do, yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And how is the backup secured from the people?
It's encrypted.
And I have the encryption keys, and nobody within Symantec has access to that.
Right. Yeah, we can't see the data at
We
all.
can't see the data as well.
Okay.
So when it's stored in the data centers for Symantec, we have no idea. It's all encrypted. We can't see what it is.
And is the encryption done on the client side?
Yes, before it goes over the wire.
Yeah.
So great place for Al Qaeda to store their plans.
So, yeah, actually what happens when the government comes in? Seriously.
We can't see in the data. I mean, it's just like if we got one of your encrypted tapes, we can't see what's inside. It's encrypted. That's the point of encryption.
use and you might get to choose.
I don't remember what level the VE.cloud stuff
Is it
has.
Bismuth?
I don't know where they started from. I'm not sure.
I'd have to check on that. I don't remember which one we're
Does the
using.
encryption take advantage of AES&I if I have it available on my chipset?
I believe so, but that's something I'd have to check.
And you guys are doing block level, so if a single block changes, you're going to encrypt the block and send the encrypted chunk?
Yes,
That could conceivably be a lot larger than the block.
it could be.
It could be.
How does that affect you? Encryption?
Well, this is going to the cloud,
This is going to the cloud.
and it's doing block level.
There would be no dedupe.
Yeah, there's not a
So it
dedupe
wouldn't be
because it's
different.
one machine.
It's-
So
Deduping encrypted data is tricky, even today. So anyway, so basically we're looking at creating flexible options for those customers. As you know, you pointed out that BackupExec's got a huge range of customers that goes from very, very, very small to really quite big. So it's really, this is about how do you want to consume it.
right.
Yeah. So we've got a series of software, client, and incidentally, all of these things apply, well, not the small business edition, apply to the client. So anything that I say, that is a full working edition of BackupExec 2012. 2010 at the moment, but 2012.
2010 right now
Yeah,
because
right now.
we haven't launched yet.
Yeah, but yeah, it will be 2012. So it's got everything in it. So it's acting as a backup media server, as a storage device, as well as a dedupe appliance, all in one, 5.5 terabytes. We've got capacity licensing in the new version. It kind of speaks for itself. One of those, I was describing the way the BackupExec is licensed. It means that agents and options are all over the place. And that people are getting renewal notices in different times. In a very, very complex environment, they might want a capacity license. So there's that. There's BackupExec 2012, which we've all known and loved for years and years and years. And there's a new small business edition. This is going to replace all of the previous SBS editions. And a lot of this is to do with the way Microsoft have been licensing SBS and SBS Premier and Hyper-V coming into the marketplace as well, and people wanting to virtualize. And that is from 1 to 3 servers in any combination. Yeah, either virtual or physical and virtual if you desperately wanted to, but 3 servers.
So why 3 when data centers licensed by 4 servers for ESI or Hyper-V?
If you have more than 3 servers, you can add another edition and manage them separately, or there's a migration path straight up to BackupExec
So you're talking
full.
about 3 Hyper-V servers,
Yeah.
any number of VMs.
No, we're talking about 3 machines, physical or virtual. This is for the small market.
You're talking about the one that doesn't exist, because most small businesses have a minimum of 10 machines.
Well, if they've got SBS, they're going to be limited.
10.
The ones I faced with, yeah.
Have you worked in doctor's offices?
Yeah, they have about 10 too.
Well,
I would say that.
But it's fine. They can have BackupExec full.
Yeah.
It's for those guys
I think
that.
there's a small market.
Actually, to be fair with what you're saying, in Europe, there's more instances. We sell more of that.
Small business server.
Small business than we do in
Yeah,
the
and
States.
so if you looked at the small business server edition we had previously, it was at 3 as well. So it's a similar model. We're just not limiting it to the small business server operating system anymore. We're trying to expand that out.
Hypervisors, that would be great, because then it's any number of VMs.
Right.
Yeah, this is limited to 3.
This is
And
3 machines.
But it supports Linux and Mac.
It does. It
I think
supports
what we're trying
Linux
to
and
say
Mac.
is
So-
like if we would batch the VMware Essentials package, then it would maybe make more sense to us.
From
at
a
least.
VMware
Okay,
perspective.
from a VMware perspective.
From the VMware, this is again, this is mirroring Microsoft. This is for Hyper-V.
Yeah. That's what we just talked about.
Kind of just what we just talked about. I would rather show the interface. It's got its own UI, which is a slimmed down version of the new UI for 2012.
Right.
I'd rather we showed
Yeah,
that.
we'll just show that.
We've also, with the software, got a new disaster recovery solution which we built into it. So the small business edition has a component part of that as well.
Right.
Now, just to confuse you even more, we have a V-Ray edition. You know, we said that V-Ray wasn't a SKU and you couldn't buy it. Well, you can now. No, we are using the terminology that people have come to know to explain what this is. So this is a virtual-only edition of BackupExec. It's got the agent for Hyper-V or VMware. It's got the application agent in there, and it's got deduplication. So it's an all-in-one package. If you are completely virtualized, there's a package for you.
Right. And it's licensed per socket.
Yeah, so it's licensed like VMware.
Right. So it follows the VMware model on licensing. So it's licensed per socket, and it's an inclusive offering of virtualization support, application and databases, and deduplication.
So there is no Windows client there if you wanted to back up, inside the VM?
You would back up the hypervisor in that case. You could put a Windows client in before. We talked a little bit about that when we were talking about net backup. It's the same technology base. You can back it up without or with. I think, don't you have a slide that talks about that, or did you take that out?
I think I took it out.
I think we took it out, but because it can go either way. The big thing that the agent gives you when you put an agent inside the virtual machine is the agent starts to understand the applications that are on the inside and does interesting things, like when it discovers an Exchange database and you're doing a full backup, it takes care of handling the logs.
Yeah, I mean, I get that, but from what I see up here, I can't install that, right?
No, you can install that.
Yeah, you can.
That's included. Everything that's inside that virtual bubble is all included.
And one of the great advantages of this is if you do end up in that situation where you've got 90% virtualized, you can back into physical with this.
So you just add an agent for your physical machine and just have it
It's just
talk
a Windows
to this guy.
agent.
Yeah, but I don't run Windows and some people don't, so.
Well, we have a Linux agent, stuff like that. Anything that's physical, that's outside the virtual realm that you've got to keep around because you've got some dedicated piece of hardware that you can't quite get off of yet.
Yeah, like that Kronos time server.
So I think it makes more sense to show the UI.
Yeah, so.
And we'll just talk around it as we do it.
Okay, so. Oh, that's interesting.
So the whole
Turn the
idea.
lights a little bit again.
George, which one was it?
They're adjusted on the back.
Oh, the back. Okay.
There we go.
So, this is the new BackupExec UI.
Is this yet to be released?
Yes, this releases March
The 5th.
5th? I always
Yeah.
get it confused. I never can remember if it's the 5th or the 6th.
It's the 5th.
It's the 5th. Okay, so March 5th is the GA date for...
First availability is
running.
It's running now.
Yeah, so the product is actually gold. We've got about 1,800 customers in the field that are running this version of the product today in production. And it'll go GA on March 5th.
So to create a new backup,
I'll go through that in just a moment. So I'll talk about the elements here, and then I'll click around and you can see what's happening. Because this is actually all running on the laptop. This first machine here in the list is an ESX server that's actually running on the laptop and inside the VMware workstation that's running there. This is a virtual machine that's running parallel to this guy, and this is actually a domain controller that is virtualized on this ESX machine. So what happened is when I took a backup of this resource, it appears down here, and I'll show you what happens with when the agent's installed and it starts seeing the applications on the inside. This is and these are two other machines that I have running on this. This one's called P2V for a reason, because we're treating this like a physical machine even though it's a virtual machine. And I'll show you something that allows physical machine backup that can be scheduled for a conversion directly into a hypervisor. So you can stage physical machines up. You can treat virtual machines like physical machines. There's some interesting things you can do around that.
You're going to do adding an ESX server? Or?
I can. I've already got this one added. It's just going to...
There's a button here.
Yeah, right.
Big button.
Right there.
It says... And once you've done that, once you've added that server, there's about 2 screens behind that which says, you know, what's the address and da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah, well, here, I'll bring up this.
Once you've done it, it's got dynamic inclusion. So any VMs that are built that are brought up within the host are dynamically included in the backup process.
So I have a question about that. Can I add in, so you're added in virtual centers.
Yes.
So I can add in for virtual center and it takes care of all the rest.
Right.
Yeah.
Can you automatically select, like in the wizard, saying, hey, all my resource pools back up as one of them?
Yes.
Yes.
So I can actually create, say I have 20 resource pools, it will automatically create 20 backup pools.
20 backup pools.
So if I have 20 resource pools, I have a backup pool representing each one of those. Because I may subdivide by resource pool, I may subdivide by folder. If I'm thinking about multiple tenants, each tenant has their own resource pool.
You could do, so you're sending them all to different types of storage?
Could be.
Okay, yeah, you could do that.
Thinking about automatically creating what I normally would want to back up by.
Right.
And if I'm in a multi-tenant situation or anything like that, resource pool is as good a divider as any other.
Right. I mean, there's some boundaries around things like if you had a deduplication device, there's only one deduplication device per media server.
But I want to be able to back up a group of VMs to a media server.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, you can do that.
Yes.
How I group those VMs could be by resource.
Right, and then they would show up. I don't want to have. Yeah, so in this case, what I've done is I've told it not to back up the VM that's called P2V because that's actually the physical machine that I did a conversion on, and I got a failed job because it was doing conversions and backups at the same time, which was causing a problem. So I'd say don't back that up. But so you would select the machines under your virtual machine, your host, and this is one of the physical or one of the machines that's running on that host. One of the other interesting things you'll notice now, if you've used BackupExec in the past, is you see this workflow look starting to develop. So you've got the resource that you're protecting on the left, and then you've got the backup on the right. So if I wanted to do an offsite, or let's see what I can add here. So I can add a stage that says go do something else. So if I wanted to...
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
Is that a virtual center that you're pointing to, the 1.14 post?
That's actually
a virtual machine on the hand.
That's
an ESX.
An ESX.
Okay.
An ESX. I don't have
the data center, which is a built-in container.
Right.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
But it can be.
It could be vCenter. Yeah, it could be either one. I just don't have that set up on this laptop.
Sure.
Because everything's running locally here. I'm not connecting out. So you'll see, like if I go up to the top, you'll see it's actually running VM Workstation.
Sure. Okay.
So if I add another I'm running out of real estate. So if I add another stage, it graphically represents all of the stages that the backup will need to go through. So in this case, I'm doing a backup and then creating a duplicate of that backup, and you can see it visually. Each one has their own schedule. So each one's scheduled differently. Its retention is actually kept differently, which is, George mentioned that as well, but it's all graphically represented. Let me bounce out.
And the stages are set in a logical way for what you would normally want to do with a backup. So you end up with as you add stages to it, you end up with a string, which becomes your asset policy, your backup policy.
So go back to that other one, the other screen you had where you listed out the different, the one previous to this.
This screen?
So it would be really cool if you had the different stages right there as icons.
They do show up that way. Let me back up.
And you also get...
This one's not as interesting because you can't, I don't have enough devices set up here to really do an interesting, but this one, for example, so this is a physical machine, and I've got a full backup set, an incremental backup, and then I've got this other job that is a convert to
all the stages show up down here, and it shows you what order they go in, and what they are, and when they're scheduled, and like that.
So as you build things out, it does show up in here, but you can also see it in that graphical staging view.
That's what engine do you use to do the P2P?
It's ours.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this, I guess that's an online agent-based P2P to the physical box that's up and running somewhere.
So yeah, this takes the information from the physical box, gathers all the data that we would need to convert that into a virtual machine, and then when it's doing the conversion, it injects all that into the hypervisor.
So it's not like you're building the virtual from the backup that you've taken.
You can do either way.
We are.
So you can do physical to virtual,
Wouldn't have to touch the physical.
where you're actually doing a parallel stream, so the backup is backing up and you're converting at the same time.
Right.
Or you can do in line, so you're doing a backup to virtual. That's taken from the backup, where the stream backs up and then the backup converts. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay.
That gave me a little bit more, but not much.
I think I know what you mean.
Yeah, so you can do it, and what Gareth's saying, you can do it simultaneously, like you can say backup and convert to virtual at the same time, or you can create the backup and then create the virtual conversion from the backup, so then you never touch the physical machine again.
From there to go to the cloud.
Yeah, and that actually leads to another interesting connection that is coming for BackupExec 2012. We've partnered up with Doyens, and they're going to be taking our backup data for VMs and replicating them up into the cloud so that we can do cloud DR.
Who's doing that?
Doyens?
Who owns the keys on that?
Who owns the keys? Doyens has been doing virtual conversions for quite a while. That's kind of what they do, and we partnered up with them to do that. And it's the way it's tenanted off. Again, it's a secure data connection that happens between the two, and you only have access to your pod of data. But it allows the backup data to be leveraged to create a cloud DR offering. So then the customer, if you're leveraging a service like that, if your site dies, you turn it on in the cloud and you're up and running again. Then this convert to virtual concept is keeping a warm standby, that machine sitting there waiting. If the physical machine dies, you turn on the virtual machine. You don't do a restore. It's up, it's ready to go. You just power it
So I
on.
can use that for doing convert backup, even if it's a virtual backup of a virtual machine. I can use the same technology.
Because this is a virtual machine. Yeah, what we're actually looking at is a virtual machine. So I'm actually taking a virtual machine and converting it to a virtual machine, and it doesn't know the difference. It also allows, you can do, let me look at this. Doyens.
D-O-Y-N-E-Z?
Yes.
Yeah.
So there, you see the server configuration at the bottom. It's already talked to the machine. It knows how much RAM it had, how much CPU it has. It knows the disk configuration down here. I've on my ESX system up here at the top, I created a different data store for it because I don't want that data store that I'm using for my standby machines to interrupt my production. So I want to keep that storage separate so you can target a data store. I have a different resource pool so I can keep the resources from colliding, and I don't end up with the staging system interrupting my production. So it's pretty flexible in that sense that you've got the ability to stage these machines without interrupting your production systems. Let's see what else is in here that's interesting. And again, adding stages, so if I add a stage, you can build out this hierarchical line of events to occur, and backups, duplicates, conversions. If I had a tape drive, There would be another line in there that allows me to create a set that goes to tape. The interesting thing about the new UI is we only show things that are available for that system. So if it's a SQL server, we show you attributes that would exist for a SQL server. If it's an Exchange server, you would see Exchange. If those don't exist, you don't see them. So the number of features that are available to the customer is custom tailored on the fly based on what the resources are available on the machine.
So that's going back to your point where we're trying to reduce the amount of stuff that people don't use in a piece of software because they just don't see it.
Yeah, it's all hidden. So like this, for example, this machine doesn't have tape. There's no tape drive connected, there's no VTL connected, there's no cloud storage connected, so you just don't see those options in there.
It doesn't ask the question.
It doesn't ask the question for doing something that you can't do because you don't have the physical setup for it.
Do you expect this kind of front end to be ported to the Net Backup product at all? Or is this going to stay within BackupExec and not be ported?
This is designed for the smaller business.
Yeah.
It's designed for the guy who's trying to do multiple jobs, who's not necessarily a backup specialist and hasn't been, stuck in the basement somewhere for the last 20 years backing stuff up. This is one of the new guys that's coming into the industry and like you say, just wants to hit a button.
Yeah.
So
this is the guy that clicks on a machine and goes next, and doesn't really pay attention to what just happened.
But isn't interested in the scripting necessarily because that's not their thing. Their thing is, VMware or
doing something more interesting than backup.
Yeah.
Hey.
Let's face it, whether you're big or small, it's not a task that you want to overly spend too much time on because it doesn't make the business any more effective at delivering what it is that it's trying to do.
They don't do it because they want to do it, they do it because they have to.
It's a must-do versus it's a cool thing to do.
My point being is, it's just because I'm a big enterprise doesn't mean I want my environment to be, or my processes to be more complicated. I want them to be as simple, if not more simple, because I've got that much stuff.
Right.
And as you go down through the business size organisations, you're more likely to get to that point faster at a SMB level because it's not core to their business. Backup, they make boats or they build something else. I don't know, whatever. They don't do backup. That's our sad job, isn't it?
Right.
I think that's true. I think that's been true for a number of years, but I wonder whether in the economic climate that we're currently in, whether there'll be increased pressure for that kind of thinking to be there at the enterprise. Like the idea of employing an entire team of people just to do backups. That's a colossal waste of human resources.
Okay, I do have a story, a little anecdotal story about that one. So I've been associated with the Lotus F1 team for many years. I know the CIO really well, and so when I first started the company, one of the first things I ever did was take a copy of Net Backup 3.11, I think it was. 3.11? Yeah. Yeah, it is a bit, isn't it? And we trademarked Net Backup in Europe based on the installation in 1994 with what was then Benetton, race team. So they are a embedded Net Backup house. 3 years ago, I said to the CIO, you ever going to virtualize? He went, no, never. And they are now in the middle of a virtualization project. I told you earlier, they virtualized trackside. He is now making noises about outsourcing that Net Backup installation. And when we have that,
he doesn't want to do it
because it's not core to his business. His business is all about putting a car together, getting all the component parts, and putting them in Singapore or wherever it happens to be, and then racing. That's what their core business is. Their core business is about running computational fluid dynamic sensors that can measure all the stuff on the car. Their business is about racing. It's not about backup. So that's starting to happen. So I'm inclined to agree with you. Yes.
Because I think backup is heading in the same direction as payroll, in the same direction as email. People don't want the responsibility of having to handle it internally, and if they are, they want as fewer people dedicated to that role, if at all dedicated to that role. So,
and hence some of the reason why we went down this route, because I think you're right that people are not willing to take that time to go and learn all about those different things that the backup could do. What they really want to do is, as Kelly says, go yep, and not read the blurb in between.
Right.
Do you see yourself going down the route that as and when new virtual machines are created, they are automatically enrolled in a backup policy?
They are already
doing anything at all.
So once you've identified the ESX host, it will dynamically,
or wherever you're targeting.
Yeah, whatever the target, it will dynamically include anything that happens
based on whether it's in the right resource pool or right folder.
Yep.
So if they drop it into a location which we've deliberately set up as this doesn't need to be backed up, a development,
it won't.
They would just ignore it.
Right.
Fair enough.
Given that, do you also provide an exception report or some report or something in my mailbox that says we just added these 1,700 new machines? Oops, I shouldn't have 1,700 machines. Do you guys have any anomaly tracking
Yes.
for things like that?
So when the backup runs, there's an entry put in the log, and it might throw an alert too. I'd have to go back and look at the alert history, and it'll say something like, this new machine was just discovered and added to this backup.
Get alerts if they're stuck in vCenter, they're stuck in their tool, aren't going to do me much good.
Right. Well, but the alerting stuff is tied into email, to SMS. There's lots of different ways to get alerts out of the system and into
Do
you.
you tie it to the capacity planning capabilities of something like VC Ops so that you know, for example, if I look at
You're losing your voice.
if I had
How did that?
If I had a
You're not losing your voice, are you?
no.
Sorry, carry on.
Tough crowd, wow.
If I know that my normal behavior is to add 10 VMs over a month, and suddenly it jumped to 30.
And some kind of alert.
I would want an alert saying you've gone outside your normal, what you guys consider normal to be based on your history.
We don't do that, but what we do start paying attention to is how much, and I think you can see it on the dashboard here.
Would you expect your backup to have it or your capacity planning?
I may not have a capacity planning tool. I would expect my backups to tell me this because I'm now backing up more data, taking up more storage. That's going to cost me more money.
And
This is a business perspective.
So, well, you can't see it in this because I haven't been backing up long enough, but you get a trending report about how much storage you're using, so you would start to see that ramp up really quickly and know something's wrong on the storage side that the backup is using.
Well, I as a backup person may never know because, hey, the application now may be exchanged and I just added 100 new employees.
Well, but that's still important for you to know.
And I may never know that.
Well, but you've got a plan for that because if you're seeing your storage grow.
But that doesn't necessarily mean there was anything abnormal.
No, it doesn't.
I would want to be...
But you've got to be prepared.
True, but I still want to be notified if anything is abnormal, like I just added 30 new VMs.
Right.
My normal growth is 2.
Yeah, we're not doing...
My normal growth is 10, or I just added 1,000, and my normal growth is 30.
Right, we're not doing trending right now to that level, but we are doing things like alerting and saying this machine just showed up, or this machine was in the last backup and now it just disappeared.
That's good.
So
the core layer is awesome.
Yeah. Right, because that's a problem.
You do that already, but you do it per machine, 1,000 pages.
Well, no, it's all in. It's the host. It looks at the host that it's backing up and says this host had or this group had. It's based on what your selection was.
So
the bubble that you've drawn around what you want to protect, if things are entering and exiting,
it'll let you know.
It'll let you know, like 4 machines were just added, 3 machines just disappeared, and you backed those up yesterday. You should know about that.
Absolutely.
So what kind of methods do you have of exporting the log events? Do you use like Windows logging? Do you use syslog? Can you?
So it writes into the event viewer always. So if you're using some big monitoring tool for event, it plugs into Microsoft System Center. And we also have email and notification through that as well. I think email is probably the most common one.
There's also a company in Ireland called Storage Online.
Yeah, that's
They have a monitor, we have a plugin for them. And they can plug into the logs and give quite detailed trending analysis for it. It's quite neat.
You can get some output.
Yeah,
using
yeah.
clear vertical.
And there's RMMs like Level Platforms and Kaseya. They have plugins as well that talk to BackupExec and show reports and trending and stuff like that. What was the other thing I want to show real quick? I guess on the storage tab. So, it depends on how much you've looked at storage in the past, but what we do now, so you can go to storage and see what exists on the storage. And before that was a very difficult concept. It would show you the media that exists, but it didn't really talk about the contents of the media. Now everything's about the contents. So on this, I see all these machines that were backed up, and I see what kind of resource they are, when the backup is going to occur, the size, when they're going to expire, what type of backup they are, and I'm just looking at the storage at that point. So if I'm trying to make decisions about, what the storage allocation looks like and how much space I'm using, I know where that space is being eaten alive.
So you have a asset view, a backup view, and a storage view.
Yes.
This is a storage.
Can you highlight what would be new in here?
What's that?
Is there a way to highlight, bring it to my attention that this is new?
Well, they're all sorted
You can sort
newest.
of
So the
any way you
newest is
like.
on top. They stack in. So everything that's on the top is the newest.
Not a new backup, but a new machine,
New device.
new device, new asset.
There is a way to set it up so that it does new device discovery. So you can point it to a group and it'll do new device discovery, and that's especially important. Let's say I created a backup job for a machine. So I'm protecting this random machine. Someone installs an application on it. Well, my backup didn't protect that application, so now it'll let you know that that machine is only partially protected and this new application has appeared and also needs some kind of protection policy to cover it. So it does do that, and it does that in the main UI. Back over here. I don't know if you can, I guess it's showing up on the screen. Everything kind of slides and moves. Yeah, it's a very interesting user interface.
Is that
It's fun for me. I don't know,
is that an air kind of front end that's written for this stuff, I guess?
What's that?
Is that an air front end that you, what's that big?
It's all written on the Microsoft Presentation Foundation.
Alright,
So we spent a lot of time and a lot of user hours going through this with customers.
A lot of heartache.
A lot of heartache.
So under servers, do you have add Hyper-V?
No, there's not an add Hyper-V. There's only add VMware. Hyper-V is not
There's
in the list yet. It will be.
There is
though.
an ad though.
Yeah. So yeah, when you add, see, the interesting thing is when you add machines now, it asks you what you're adding. So there's context around what you're looking for, so you start to narrow things down. If you've used 2010 in the past, when you said backup, it just gave you this huge list of machines, and you kind of had to search around and find the names. Where here, you immediately start to narrow in.
Why not just put in a SCVDM or a System Center so that it can actually go through the System Center and decide? Because if I'm using System Center to manage my VMware environment, which I could, in my Hyper-V environment, which you could, you can just point to there and it'll pick up everything.
That is true. Yeah, that we could do that. I mean, we're trying to continually to narrow down the stack, so we're looking
also,
for.
If I say go to System Center, it probably already has the first one already listed there.
Yeah.
And it probably already breaks it out by type. So
That's definitely something we can think about, leveraging System Center for that. Kind of narrow as well, because we're looking for ways to focus in on what you want to do, versus providing you this buffet of things that you don't, the user doesn't know where to go.
And naturally, with software or any kind of development, that menu of stuff just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, because we don't retire anything, do we? So it just becomes massive. So we're trying to hone that down.
Let's see.
Anything else?
What other plugin? We did we talk about AppHA?
We do talk about AppHA, yes. Why not?
Is that, okay. So, you don't have a slide on that, do you?
No.
No. So the other plugin that we have, so we have a plugin for vCenter that allows you to kind of see what's occurring in your virtual environment. The other piece that we have is Application HA. So it is actually an application-aware.
I might have.
Oh, do you?
No, I might have the present. No, you keep going.
So, so it's actually an application-aware virtual view. So it doesn't really look at the machine. It looks at the applications that are running on the machine. So
this was presented at the first virtualization tech build in
yes,
Boston
it probably was.
last year.
Yes.
Quite right.
So can you speak a bit about what's changed in the
I don't think we've really, nothing's really changed. They've added some more support for different versions of things, but the concept of it looking at the application, trying to do remediation, and if it can't do remediation, talking to BackupExec, having BackupExec spawn a backup, or spawn a restore. The backup hopefully has already been done. If not, you're in trouble at that point.
Supports a new version of VMware. I know that.
Yeah, it supports a new version of VMware.
And we've got, I mean, you mentioned the BE plugin to
Right.
HA. So it's not only can you see the tab. Whoa!
They need to warn us.
The tab at the top with AppHA and BackupExec in vCenter.
Right.
There's an integration between.
Because it looks at the services running inside the VM, doesn't it?
Yes.
And I remember there was like a preset list of certain services that you could select. Is that
Right.
being extended at all?
I think that has, because we've added additional support for different things, but I don't know the
There's anything
details.
specific.
I'd have to go back and compare what was presented the first time and what was presented now.
Can you do can the HA part be on a metro cluster?
Metro cluster.
In
I
other
don't
words,
know.
a dplex or something where I have shared data stores amongst everything across large distances.
I would have to ask the AppHA
I
guys.
thought it'd be so high in the stack that it would really care whether
Well,
HA
HA
was-
doesn't,
Yeah, I don't
but
think
HA
it knows
doesn't
that.
do it currently, so would the application be able to say, oh, you're dead here, and guess what, the rest of you are dead, go over here.
Well,
and
as I
watch.
remember, it's just a restart of the service inside a virtual machine. When
Can
that
it?
service is started. It's not like
Okay. Well, if it's built on it.
And
It's built on cluster
server can do
server.
it, then AppHA can do it.
Yeah. So, yeah.
AppHA is built on cluster server, so.
And if it's aware, then it could do that.
Well, it's both application and server aware.
Right.
So if whichever stresses out.
Whichever goes south.
Yeah.
I think we're out of time. Are there any questions?
Burning questions,
for Garrett
yes.
or Kelly? George is still here. Any burning questions? We thank you for coming, being with
Yes.
Symantec today. It's been great having you.
Thanks for
Thanks, Symantec, for presenting.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.